Hello and welcome to the Virtual Frontier, the podcast about virtual teams created by a virtual team. I'm Chris and I'm part of the team here at Flash Hub. On today's episode, we have Niels Pflaeging. Niels is the co-founder of the Beta Codex network and president of his own consulting firm based in New York and Germany. This episode is back to being in English, but you can still head over to our blog for the transcript. So, here is our conversation with Niels Pflaeging.
Hello and welcome to our new episode here in Virtual Frontier. My name is Daniel and our guest today is Niels Pflaeging. Niels Pflaeging is a founder and associate of the Beta Codex network and as well president of a consulting firm in Germany, in Wiesbaden. But Niels, thank you very much for joining us today. Nice to have you here. Please introduce yourself, explain us a little bit what is Beta Codex and what is the network behind it. That is very interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. Hi Daniel, hi Manuel. Thanks for inviting me. I'm happy to be talking about Beta and the Beta Codex network. But maybe a good way to explain what Beta is to just say it is the alternative to management, the social technology. It is the antidote. It's the kryptonite to management, the social technology, to pyramid organizations, to command and control. That is what it is. It is the antithesis, the opposite. So, and this came, let's say it was discovered. Beta was not invented. It was discovered around 15, 20 years ago by a bunch of British guys from the Beyond Budgeting Roundtable, of which I became associated as well. And they wanted to find organizations that, successful and larger organizations that wouldn't do budgeting, because they thought, okay, budgeting is a mess, annual planning isn't worth it, it's shit, so to say. So let's figure out if there are organizations out there that can do without budgeting and annual planning. And they found some very interesting companies, or larger companies, successful companies, mostly in Europe, some in the United States as well. And then they found, that was in the year 1999 or 2000, they found the Swedish bank Handelsbanken, an organization that had no budgeting for about 30, 40 years already at the time. It has been Europe's most successful bank for almost 50 years now. And from observing these cases, they derived a model. They wanted to describe, okay, what makes organizations like Toyota, Handelsbanken, or in Germany, DM Drogeriemarkt, the drugstore retail company. These guys wanted to describe what this model was made up and made from, and they figured out the principles behind it. And that is what we today call Beta, or the Beta Codex. The principles of running organizations without command and control, without centralized steering, without annual planning, in an agile way, so to say. Radically decentralized organizations without heroes at the top, not pyramid-shaped organizations, but we call them peach-like, radically decentralized. That is Beta, that's Beta Codex. And the sad truth is, there are way too few organizations like that out there. Most organizations still rely on bullshit command and control.
That was my initial question. So why? I understand the Beta Codex. I understand the model behind it. When I was doing my research for our podcast today, I'm fan of it. I like it, but I see there are a few companies, a few organizations that maybe go in that direction somehow, but the vast majority isn't. What is happening? Why?
Yes, I think that's the big question, and I do not like to give easy answers to that question, because that's the big riddle. Let's say we know that command and control is a huge pile of dung, that it doesn't really work, that command and control is inappropriate in complex times, that it's not even humanly appropriate for human beings. We know all that, but still the world doesn't change. The world of organizations doesn't change. So there are several forces at work there that inhibit the transformation, if you want to say so. I believe one of the main inhibitors is that let's put it differently, turn it into a little riddle. Why do you think are there so few imitators to the Toyota model. We have known about Toyota and how great it is, and about lean and all that stuff for 40, 50 years, right? The company Toyota has been doing it for 60 years, what they've been doing. But still, German car manufacturers, for example, run on command and control. They totally do it. And American companies in Detroit haven't changed either. And most of the Korean companies are command and control as well. So why aren't we learning from the good examples? It's a big riddle.
So maybe because it still works for them.
Somehow. I would say that the struggle is not big enough until now.
How big can it be? I mean,
that's a good question.
It works for them only. I think it only works for them because they think it's normal. What they are doing is normal. Yeah, and it's inevitable. So command and control only survives, I think, because we believe it is normal, it is inevitable. There's no alternative. And of course, everybody's doing it, which is a lie. That's not true. Like there was a drugstore company, a retail company, very famous in Europe, Schlecker. Doesn't exist anymore. It was Germany's and Europe's biggest retail drugstore chain. Imploded a couple of years ago. Now DM Drogeriemarkt, a much better company, radically decentralized, like Toyota, like Handelsbank. They rule not because they have better products, really. It's just that they have the much better organizational model. I mean, Toyota is not better because Toyota overwhelmingly employs Japanese. That's not the reason. It doesn't make a difference. The difference is they believe in different principles, organizational principles. And I think one of the answers is also one of the less obvious answers to the question, why do companies not move to that model more often? Why do not more of them move to a decentralized, self-organized model, more agile, more, less based on planning and steering from the top? Why do so few companies do it? I think one of the reasons is that we don't think people can do it. We don't think that people are intrinsically motivated. We believe that other people do not like the work. We have to force them, bribe them, punish them a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, maybe sometimes it's the fact, but most likely it's not that they don't like their work. It's that they don't like the environment of like being controlled and forced to do something where they don't see any sense. Like what I'm wondering when you are talking about agile organizations, decentralized organizations, and you're talking about not planning, would you say that we should not plan anymore?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Okay. Why
planning is a luxury that no company can afford to do to give itself. Planning is great when the environment doesn't change.
Yes.
Yeah, then you can plan because then it's safe. You make a plan here, nothing changes, you can execute. So planning in itself isn't bad. It's just bad if the world, is complex and full of surprises. Then planning is bad.
That's a big important difference.
It's really simple. It's really just that. Planning works well when there is no surprise. When there is surprise, planning works not well.
Yeah, and the surprise happens when the environment and the assumptions that are part of the plan change. And if they change more rapidly, then the planning
gets you dumber. The more surprises, the dumber and dumber it is to plan. The dumbest thing, if you want to run an organization, is to plan the results that you want to have and then to turn them into targets, like strategic targets, fixed targets. It would connect them with incentives. It's the most stupid thing that you can do because then you imprison people to execute on targets that have become irrelevant right in the moment of planning already. Or they will always be relevant because people cannot see what would be a good target. They cannot know. I mean, people who plan cannot know what would be a good target either. So that the whole thing of planning and target setting and fixed planning and bonus systems, all this performance management crap. Sorry, pardon the language, but it's really bullshit.
I want to understand.
It's the thing of the past.
Agree on that, because but I think we are not yet precisely enough talking about planning. So from my point of view, where I see a huge value is in fact in planning, because people try to deeply understand how things impact each other. So that is the value for me in planning. I'm not telling that when I create a plan, I have to stick to everything because, as you say, that's simply not possible. But I experienced what happens when we don't plan at all. We just run with closed eyes on autopilot, the things how we are used to do it, right? So somehow getting consciousness about something and measuring key drivers and understanding where you want to go. I'm not telling that, okay, we need to hit our exact target, but we need to understand the direction and the key drivers that move us.
Yes, well said. No, well said. And in your private lives, you both can call it planning if you like, or you can, Manuel, you can call it planning if you like. Okay. But the real word, the right word for what you just described, to understand the interconnections, to understand the results you want to get, to understand how to get there. Mm-hmm. There is another word, another conceptual, it's important to use proper words for things. Yes. So how is that called? You want to run a marathon.
That is the part where I think we are not yet aligned because I don't know this word. For me, it's planning. What is it for you?
No, it's not planning for you. You know a better word. Everybody knows a better word. If you want to run a marathon.
Measurement?
No, all these are technocratic terms. And the interesting thing is, I'm not criticizing here or anything. I just want to make you aware that the words that we use already are infested with command and control concepts. We have to measure people, we have to incentivize them, we have to plan, we have this technocratic mindset and language. A less technocratic mindset would say, okay, we want teams to be responsible, we want to hold them accountable for results.
Yes.
I would not even talk of key performance indicators. I would say that there are some things that we will always pay attention to, like as a company we must make a profit, otherwise we will die. Not because profit is great, it's just necessary. It's like breathing is not great for us, it's necessary for us as human beings. So all this technocratic language, or let's say it's what I try to achieve here is to make you aware of the language that we're using and that there are alternative words.
Yeah.
In this case, if you want to get fit for a marathon, you do not plan. What do?
Train.
You train, yes. But training is not enough. You also must become smarter in understanding your body, your limitations. You have to learn a better method. We call that, there's a huge word for that, preparation.
Preparation, okay.
Preparation, sounds very simple. So the opposite to planning is preparation. Sounds very simple, I know, but preparing is totally different because it's the preparer's responsibility to prepare, to get fit. And so this is one of the Beta Codex principles, preparation instead of planning. Sounds very simple, but there is a huge difference because usually we use the plans in organizations, in companies. We use the plans to steer others.
And then when we compare it with a marathon, still I have a goal. I want to run the marathon with I have a target time, right? So, and also what you said is, no? But a range. I want to be so when I ran, I want to be at 5 minutes per kilometer, for example. That is my KPI. I want this. That was my goal.
If you run a marathon, and if you are smart, you work differently. First, you want to reach the goal. Also, you have to distance.
Yes.
Yeah. You want to make the distance. But then you do not say, I want to make it in 2 hours and 40 minutes. I'm not sure how a marathon works, how long it takes, but something like that, right? 3 hours, 2 hours. But you do not set targets like, I want to make the first 5 kilometers in such and such minutes. Nobody does that. Nobody does that.
I would bet on that they do. That's why they have the pace. The pace exactly is the KPI that you have. You
use markers, you get orientation by some things. Okay, yes. But you do not set at a target. You just use the first 5 kilometers took me such and such time.
Yes.
You use that, but it's not a target. Because if the weather conditions, for example, or your physical conditions don't allow, you have to adapt. And that is what companies do.
And I think that is exactly of making performance indicators, which is, for example, the pace for a marathon runner, right? To reflect, am I on track on what I want to do? Nobody controls me. Nobody tells me to do this, right? I'm intrinsically motivated to achieve that. I did, for example, sports for a very long time, right? And I always wanted to win like the national championship, and I knew exactly what I need to do. And I wanted to win the world championship, and I knew exactly what to do. And I trained, I prepared, and then during the competition, I always saw, okay, it's 1 to 5 against me. So now this is my KPI. I understand I need to have at least 6 to 5 for me. So now I need to adjust, right? Yeah. And my preparation helped me, but I still always see these numbers.
But the big thing here is not, I mean, we're discussing planning and targets and measuring now, but the other big element in what you just explained is that you owned your performance.
Yes.
Nobody told you what to do.
That's the big difference.
And plans, and let's be very honest about it, planning in organizations is done to steer others. So to disappropriate them of their brains. Absolutely. And that also, it already happens when you tell them what the key performance indicators are. Instead of telling them, no, you have to figure out what's important for your work. However, we must make profit. We must satisfy clients as well. Those are obvious. It's obvious stuff, you know.
These obvious things sometimes fall below the table if you don't make them.
In command and control. But in a great organization, everybody will understand we have to satisfy customers. Like at DM Drogeriemarkt. It's pretty obvious what DM Drogeriemarkt lives from. Satisfied customers who come again and again, who try new products, you know, who are happy with the product and with the environment, and the company must make a profit. I always like to say every 14-year-old child or 16-year-old child can understand what a company needs to do to be successful. It's very simple.
Yeah.
But in command and control, you force people to forget what's right because you force them to follow the plan. That's why Soviet-style planning, it's still happening in big companies. We talked about Volkswagen, etc. It's like Soviet, evil Soviet empire, you know, or fascism. That's one of the downsides of planning. It's not just that it's the wrong methodology and that preparation is better, but it's also that you take people's, you take away people's capability of self-organization, and that's evil.
Okay. Yeah. I want to share one experience with you, and I would really appreciate if you could tell me what I did right and maybe what I did wrong. So, because my experience...
Don't expect too much. I usually criticize.
No. It's a conversation, and I want to understand your opinion. So, see, we were, till 2018, we were a hierarchical company. I did what I saw when I looked at other companies, right? They are all built hierarchically. There is like the owner, then the CEO, second level management, and then people that really deliver the value and do the work. I built my company in the same way. It's a service company for software development.
How many people?
Yeah.
How many people?
43 in 2018. So, and then it was always driven by command and control. So there were customers that hired us for doing a project. Then I told them, okay, you have this budget, you have to do this. And I told them what to do. All the tactics I gave them. It was so exhausting for me. And at a certain point, I thought, okay, I can't control this anymore. It's too much pressure. It's not possible. People also were not happy. So then there was a huge crash, and I completely changed my company. I fired 20 people because I was so disappointed. That was an emotional thing. And the company was at huge risk. There is a TEDx talk if you want to see that. If you Google Manuel Pistner TEDx, you will find it. So then what happened is I hired freelancers to save my company. That worked. I had a virtual team of 23 people in a single day, and they migrated 8,000 web pages in 4 days. That saved it. So then I saw that these people, they all came to me, independent, self-determined, and decided for themselves, oh, that's a nice thing. I want to do this. This is my hourly rate. I commit to whatever, 14 hours every day, working over the weekend. Nobody tells me. I want to do that. And I love that because I saw that people, they simply help me and do this because they are motivated to do it. And that saved my company. And then I decided I want to rebuild my company in the same way to have the same experience with my full-time employees. So what I did is I told them exactly what you saw as basic KPI. We need to be profitable, otherwise we die. Normal rule of the economy. Then I told them, okay, so here's how it works. We make everything transparent. Salaries transparent, the balance sheet transparent, P&L transparent. You can see everything. You get training to understand these numbers, how a balance sheet works, all these things. And you need to understand that you have to do projects. That's part of our engine of the company so that we earn money with that. Here is how the economics work. This is what a customer pays. This is your salary. You hire freelancers, and the difference is the profit that pays your salary. Okay? A part of that will be put on the company account because we also need to earn 15% based on revenue. That's the money for the company. So this is how it works. And I let them do. So this is your KPI, be profitable. And they were so exhausted, and they were some canceled and some were almost about to burn out, because what I experienced, what is wrong, they were all of a sudden in an environment that was completely different from what was before that. And they didn't have the skills to understand what these numbers really mean and what they can do to influence them. And that drove some of them really, really crazy. And I want to understand now, should we protect our people from this radical transparency, or is that normal and only the hardest survive that want to adapt and live in the system? There are others, and this is the thing that excited me, those that canceled the relationship working with us, they went into large corporations where they have a boss that tells them what to do with them.
Hey everybody, Chris here again. We'll get back to the conversation in just a minute. Real quick, I wanted to give a thank you and shout out to everyone that has left a review on Apple Podcasts. We really appreciate it because reviews help people find our show and climb the charts higher and higher. So if you like what you're hearing, please head over to your favorite podcast app and leave us a review. You just might be featured right here in a future episode. Now, back to the conversation.
Okay, now I will show you how I work with my clients.
Yeah, perfect.
Yes?
Yeah.
It's not pretty.
That's good. Must not be pretty, just must
I
work.
usually say something a little tough at the beginning.
Okay.
You are a very slow learner.
Go for it.
You are a very slow learner.
Mhm.
Or you didn't, from the first experience that the company grew and became unbearable and then fell apart in a way,
Yeah.
you didn't learn the right lesson. Let's put it like that. You know? Because I think the right lesson is this. An owner like you, or company founder, steering the organization and controlling it, it only gets you so far. It only works for a company of maybe 10 people, maybe 15, maybe 20, but then it falls apart. Of course, depending on how brilliant you are in your ways to communicate, whatever, maybe your company falls apart at a size of 7 people or 30 people or 50. There's a range, but in general terms, if you have a company of, let's say, 10 or more people, you should have 2 teams and then 3 teams at a certain size. You know, a team, and I think that's the secret sauce to self-organization that most even in the agile movement have not yet understood. They yet has to grasp this, that team is the most important thing in larger organizations. Yeah. So, and you were still, I was a little harsh with you at the beginning now, because even at the end of the story, you talked about individual performance, individual steering. I at least I think I heard that. I'm not sure. I don't know the details of your
team
story.
performance. Always 2 people have 1 performance KPI. That's
exactly. And what Beta suggests is always have teams, 5 people. Maybe a team starts maybe with 4 people, but that's not very robust, because when one is sick and one is on vacation, then falls apart. 5 is a good team size, 6, 7, 8, and then not so much anymore. So the secret sauce to a Beta organization is teams. Let's talk about Toyota. They have teams on the shop floor. It's like a string, it's like a pearl necklace of teams, you know, a string of teams working for each other, with each other, as they say at DM Drogeriemarkt. At DM Drogeriemarkt, the branch is the team. At Handelsbanken, the branch is the team. And a team can never be bigger than, you know, maybe 10 people. So, but then, you know, not in software engineering or software development, by the way, or services, teams should be smaller than that. For, I think, obvious reasons, but, you know, to maintain social density, like in a family, you know, the density, the let's say the commitment with each other, for each other, and so on. You need to to measure team performance, not individual performance. Don't give people targets.
Agree.
Set team measures or have team P&Ls, profit and loss statements.
We have exactly this. Then I described it wrong. Every team has an own P&L, own balance sheet, and that's how they manage it.
Yeah. Why towards the end of the story, I couldn't figure out exactly what went wrong in your company. So, and I do not want to overanalyze.
This is not therapy. Just during the process, people left because they were not made for the system. Still, we operate exactly in that way. We have small squads. They are people of like 2 or 3 people are one team. They have their P&L, they have their KPI.
Still a mistake.
Sorry?
Don't believe in anything that I say. You don't have to believe in anything that I say. But a team is not 2 people. A team is not 3 people. Team begins with 4 and ends with 8.
Okay. Yeah, then we have 3 individuals.
No, because that's the thing. We too often we ignore that in companies. In order to have a successful business, you must feel like you are in a mini company with others.
Correct. Absolutely agree.
That's a team. When you feel like, oh, we run a business together. It's the 5 of us, the 6 of us.
Yeah.
And you cannot build that with 2 people, and you cannot make it happen with 15. It's impossible. So this is not, it has nothing to do with with your talent, your skills, or with the company's business model or something. It's like organizations should be built on teams, period. Not on departments, not matrices. They shouldn't have matrix structures. Bosses are unimportant if you have a team-based organization where every team sells something to an external customer or an internal customer.
That's how we do it. Exactly how
in the Peach model, we call that center. The center sells to the periphery, and the periphery sells to the market.
Yes.
And the periphery must be in charge. This is the most important. The periphery, closer to the market, because it's like a peach. It has skin, and then there's the periphery, the flesh. They must be in charge. They must steer the center, and the center serves the periphery so that the periphery can serve the market. That's part of the data.
That's exactly how we do it. And we measure clearly the internal value proposition with numbers so that we understand how good they serve each other. It's not that somebody tells them. It's just if you are sitting in your car and you see you are driving 100 or 150. And then you can find out for yourself, what does it mean for your team? Right?
Yeah.
What would I experience if I mean, I have teams that have 5 people. I have teams that are 2 people. What should I experience with these 2 people teams if that does not work?
What you should experience? I'm not sure.
I mean, you say that a team cannot consist of 2 people, but you have teams of 2 people since 2 years.
No, you don't have to. You don't have to. You have duos. You have helpless people stuck with each other, like double pairs. Let's call it a pair. You have pairs that you call teams. Yeah. That's like fraud. It's a lie. A pair is not a team. I'm trying to.
What's the difference? I'm just
trying to demonstrate you how to approach this problem. I'm not judging you, of course. This is.
Yeah, I understand this. I just want to understand what is the difference. I mean, when you say a team or not a team, what are the attributes of a team then that I can't have with 2 people?
Team dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot have team dynamics with yourself or with just one other person. In a team, for example, let's say the 2 of us, we have deficiencies. I have deficiencies. I don't speak Turkish. I'm not good at. There are some things I'm not good at. Let's imagine that talking to clients or whatever. I dislike ringing people, phone calls. I don't like them very much. Uh-huh. And you like them. And you speak Turkish as well, which is good, or you use PowerPoint and I only use InDesign or whatever, Yes. So our incompetencies, we can compensate them among us. Only a team can do that. In a team of 5, you have so much diversity that you can really, teams can be perfect. That is the key sentence.
I see, because
cannot be perfect, I cannot be perfect, but a team can be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Not the individual. But, because together with 5 people or 6, we can do everything.
They can be perfect, but they must not be perfect, right?
They must find their perfection, of course. They must find their way
They compensate their skills, the missing skills.
Yes.
I mean, it might happen that I don't speak Turkish. Nobody in the team does. Still, there's no compensation, right?
Yeah, and then, of course, if you have a diverse team of 5, if people are only criticizing each other and making each other's lives hard, then there's no advantage. So there can be productive interaction in teams or destructive interaction in teams. Of course, that's not. There's no simple solution to that. It must be curated, so to say. That's why teams must find themselves, and sometimes they take a few days to do that. And of course they have to fight about things. For example, fight about why is our performance bad? Why are we not making a profit? Why are our clients unsatisfied?
Exactly.
And then you have to fight about it. That's why you asked, in your story, in the case description, you said people couldn't bear the transparency, or you doubt that transparency works. I say transparency works all the time. It's just not.
I agree. Just not for everyone.
It's not No, it's not pleasant. No, I think it's for everyone.
Not pleasant, exactly.
It's just not pleasant.
That's why people leave, because they want a pleasant feeling in their job, and they think this is not pleasant. I don't want this.
I don't think so.
I have people that told me.
Yes,
I had people that told me.
True.
They said, I don't want to care about all these numbers, transparency. I don't care. I want to do coding.
I have a great lesson for you, Manuel. When people leave, they almost never tell the true story.
Okay, yeah.
And there are good reasons, excellent reasons for that. Yeah. So even if I hate your guts, I would say, no, it was the big pressure in the company.
Yeah, that's also.
And that's okay. You cannot expect people to tell the ultimate truth. But, I believe that. And of course, there are, let's say in the world, assholes exist.
Of course.
It's a fact. And sometimes we are the assholes as well. But in overall, I think people want to contribute. They want to feel the connection at work. They want to contribute something. Overall, they want to do that.
Yeah.
It's that. So that's. I think it's. Most people want to bring that. Then there are other things that must be aligned or that must work out, and there are 1,000 reasons why to leave a company or leave a job. But I think to create the best system, that is a very attractive thing, and that's a powerful thing. That's what we can do as an entrepreneur as well.
Yeah, I'm trying very hard to do that.
That's why I admire companies like Toyota or Aldi, because their businesses are vulgar. To me, it's vulgar. I like Aldi, the supermarket. I go there every week. But the business is trivial, right?
Mm-hmm.
Selling consumer products, usually groceries that other companies produce. It's so simple, so repetitive. Still, they are doing it in a way that's cooler than that of other companies that have faded away.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have to, at Aldi, they don't have to, drill and punish their employees all the time. They have a system that works for itself. And that is very admirable, to offer people a well-paid employment. They pay excellent salaries. In retail, Aldi pays, in Germany at least, and I think in Europe-wide, they pay the best salaries. Trader Joe's in the United States, also an Aldi company, they pay the best salaries in the sector, and they employ the oddest people,
Okay.
And that's just great. I think that's a wonderful thing that companies have, to make people shine and grow, and to create a sustainable business, that runs over decades, and to not treat people like children. I think that's why I'm in love with Beta so much,
Yeah.
All about fulfilling humanity's potential through work, which often is very simple and repetitive and boring.
Yeah. That is what I decided. I want to build a company that contributes something positive to the life of everyone working with us. But that requires that they understand everything and then take accountability about their things like profitability or customer satisfaction.
Yes. But for people to be accountable, to behave like accountable human beings, you have to create the right system. And that, I think the science or the art of creating well-functioning decentralized systems, it's very little understood. And that is what the Beta Codex and the Beta Codex network are about.
Mm-hmm.
To share the philosophy of self-organized companies, regardless of size, because you can have a company with 300,000 or 500,000 people. It works just as well as with 20 people.
Yeah.
These principles scale. It's not a tool like.
Yeah. Which are other successful examples of organizations working according to the rules of Beta?
Oh, okay. The usual suspects: Southwest Airlines, WL Gore.
Okay.
One of the recent examples. I mean, in Germany we even have a magazine that features companies. Brand 1 from Hamburg. They feature companies like that frequently.
Okay.
I think one of the newest examples of a great company like that is Buurtzorg from the Netherlands, the health organization.
I heard about it. Yeah.
They do predominantly healthcare, but they are now having kindergartens and that kind of stuff. They are very diversified by now and have.
Okay.
How many people do they have? 11,000 employees?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So they have only existed for a little more than a decade, if I remember well, and radically decentralized. They are very conscious of their principles, which is what I like. I strongly recommend everybody to watch Joost de Blok, the founder's stuff on YouTube, his interviews, his keynotes. I think he's a brilliant speaker and explains very well how this works.
Okay.
I lived in Brazil for a while. In Brazil, we always had the company Semco as a great example.
Yeah.
Semco, also very diversified. They have been growing and degrowing because they create companies and grow, and then they sell them. They are not growth overall, but the company has these principles, and Ricardo Semler has written several books about them as well. So
this guy...
we have these companies on our website. Betacodex.org, you find a list of companies.
This guy, Ricardo Semler, I was not aware of this person's name since somebody mentioned that. I implemented exactly what he did on LinkedIn. It was like only a month ago. I didn't remember the name of this guy, but I remember exactly the video that I watched that inspired me 2 years ago to build my company, how it is today. And that was how to lead a company with almost no rules. That was so great. And that was the initial thought, the initial emotion when I decided, okay, I want the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
The problem when I also admit I have a problem with cases. We just mentioned a few, right? Buurtzorg, Semco, Toyota, and Handelsbanken, Gore, fantastic companies.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that cases do not work.
Not for others to copy. You mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nobody. I mean, cases are someone inspiring. Cases are like chocolate,
Mm-hmm.
very sweet, and you get a good feeling, looking at them.
Yeah.
But they do not convince you to do the same. In some cases, they inspire, like what you just said, Manuel. Yes, they inspired Semco. The Semco case inspired you, but inspiration is not enough. I prefer the Yoda adage: do or do not. There is no try. If you want to have a company like that, you do it full force, full throttle, or you better leave it at that.
Absolutely agree.
Because self-organization is the game of making. Self-organization requires big faith. Like our faith in democracy must be very strong to defend the democracy. Otherwise, you would say, all politicians are crap. I'm not sure. We can also have a dictator again, But I believe in democracy, and we should also believe in self-organization. This is very relevant for the agile movement, I think. In the agile movement, too few people are in love with self-organization. Too many of people in the agile movement are in love with tools.
Mm-hmm.
And tools are just...
They help you to do what you want to do, maybe more efficient, but you need to understand what you really want and have to do.
Exactly. Right? We have to be in love with the philosophy, with the with the politics, let's say, of self-organization.
Values.
And not the tools. The tools come last. You cannot put the philosophy into tools. Doesn't work. Aichi Ono said that famously when we crystallize thinking into tools, then the thinking dies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we have to believe that everybody has to appropriate the thinking so that self-organization can sustain itself. That is what the Beta Codex movement is about. It's not about tools. Fuck tools. I mean, we need tools, but the tool's not interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely agree. Yeah. Yes. So when a company starts, and then Daniel, sorry, then you can continue with the question because I find it so exciting and engaging.
I see it.
When somebody creates a new company, individual entrepreneur has huge goals. How would you, you don't give a recommendation and there is no do it like this blueprint, but which values or things concrete would you give this person to his or her hand so that he or she can build such a self-organized company?
Well, I think you got it wrong. We have very specific ideas about startups.
Okay.
We like to say startups usually are in naive beta, as we call it. Beta is the peach for a larger organization, and a startup, it's like a one-cell organism.
Yep.
So you start with 4 people, 5 people, 7 people, whatever, you know. So you have a one-cell organization. Organism just as a metaphor. Yeah. So usually you have a naive kind of self-organization, and it works. Usually, you know, there is, and one of them, maybe the founder is an asshole and shouts at everybody, but still they have this social density that when they really struggle with something, they go to the bar and get drunk and fight and then find a solution together. So there is social density. We call this naive beta.
Okay.
But that doesn't sustain forever. If you grow beyond 10, 20, 30 people, this naive density starts to erode. And you have usually destructive patterns emerging. You know? That is why when an organization grows beyond 10 or 15 people, it starts, as we call it, to differentiate between center that should serve the periphery, but not steer it, and the periphery as such that serves the external customers, clients, and customers, market. And if you don't do that consciously, you fall into the trap of command and control. Once a startup grows beyond the super mini size, it can only take the path of pyramid or peach, centralization or decentralization. And most startups, surprise, take the road to command and control.
But still it works. I mean, that's the thing, right? The pressure might not be high enough so that they need really decentralization.
No alpha organization works. Maybe they survive. Maybe they make a profit. But they do not work. Get this out of your head. Like,
how did you measure
do you think that fascism works anywhere or autocratic regimes work? I do not believe so. You know, I personally have no beef with Mr. Erdogan from Turkey, but he's an autocrat, a dictator of sorts. Turkey, the country, doesn't work. It doesn't function. You can say, oh, they survive, and their economy grew for a while, which, by the way, has nothing to do with Mr. Erdogan himself, but with previous politics they did. And anyone living in Turkey can say that Mr. Erdogan is great and he's a very nice dictator. Still, it doesn't work as well as a democracy. It's obvious. I believe in democracy. I believe in self-organization. Don't tell me that Volkswagen or any other command and control organization like Siemens works. It doesn't work. It's barely enough, to still attract some people.
What is it that makes a company work? I mean, which measures or how do we see if I look at a company, how can I see works, does not work?
Relative performance.
Compared to what, if it's relative?
Compare Toyota to Volkswagen, and you see that Volkswagen is not hasn't
others in the market
at all for decades.
Yeah,
they have been bigger sometimes than Toyota.
Okay, so you need to compare. Yeah, so comparing the performance of the company to others, you mean, and
we call that relative targets or relative performance, to compare actual performance of one party or of a team or a company to another team or company.
Yeah. And you compare the performance on what, profitability or customer satisfaction or revenue growth? What is it?
Yeah, well, read our white paper, number, I think, 10 or 11, about performance system. It calls performance systems at work, I think.
Okay, I will do that.
Yeah. Okay. For example, do not compare profit in euros or dollars with other teams or companies' profit in euros or dollars, because that would mean comparing large and small. And sometimes teams have more or less customers or size for whatever reason. But size doesn't matter. Size only mattered in the industrial age when markets were still monopolies and oligopolistic. So if you want to make a good comparison about profit, do it relatively. For example, for a retail company, it might be a return on sales.
Okay.
It's a percentage, is it?
Yeah, okay.
2%, 3%, 5%. Aldi has maybe 5, Lidl has 2.5. Which is the better company?
Yeah,
Aldi.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
So relative targets or relative performance means comparing actual real numbers with other real numbers. And without defining a fixed target. You should never say, let's make 3% or let's make 10. Never, ever. And you turn it fixed and people will bribe the system or play the system, game the system. So I very much recommend this white paper. I will look up which one it is. The Beta Codex white paper called, I think it's called, yes, Making Performance Work. Beta Codex white paper number 10.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very highly recommended. It also tells you why bonuses are a crime against humanity and so on.
Okay. Yeah, we will post these links below the video so that we have it in the show notes, and
Great.
I will definitely read it.
Daniel. Niels, you're talking as well a lot about the struggle between those different structures. So we don't have always a whole PG organization or a complete hierarchical organization, command and control, and as well like the informal part of the organization. Could you give a little bit more insight about this? About the struggle itself between those different environments that are clashing with each other or sometimes interacting with each other, but we have them always present, right? We don't have like pure PG organizations or pure command and control organizations.
Yes, that is I've been with this movement, the Beyond Budgeting movement, and now the Beta movement for almost 20 years, and this is always a big topic. But there are no pure beta, pure alpha companies these days. There's always this dynamics between informal, formal, and whatever. So at some point we wanted to solve this riddle, and we solved it. In 2011, we solved this riddle. We figured out that every organization has 3 structures. Every organization in the world, Aldi, Toyota, Handelsbanken, W. Gore, and also, what's the most terrifying command and control organization in the world? Okay, let's take Volkswagen or whatever, you know? or General Motors or Bank of America or whatever it is, you know? Whatever it is. And of course, most organizations are command and control pyramid organizations. So all these organizations have 3 structures. We call this concept org physics. There's also a Beta Codex Network white paper, number 11, that's called Org Physics Explained. This is really one of the best works, one of the best things that we have developed in the last couple of years. So org physics says every organization has formal structure, which is bosses on top, people at the bottom, you know, we have to have a CEO at the top, and that kind of, we have to have an audit committee, we must have contracts, and we must have, you know, an accounting system and bookkeeping, you know, formal structure. It's needed to be within the law. Usually what we do is we most organizations over-accentuate formal structure because they think it matters beyond compliance, which is a mistake. People think that because I'm the CEO, I can steer, I know more, I should steer the entire company like an evil emperor. Yeah? That's the mistake. The mistake is not to have a CEO. A CEO is necessary for legal reasons for many companies, due to compliance, due to law. So the problem is not having a CEO, having, you know, managers. The problem is when these people start to steer the organization because they think that's how an organization works. So that's the first structure, formal structure. Usually we draw an org chart to depict it. Second structure, you just mentioned it, Daniel, informal structure. So that's, we like each other or we dislike each other. It doesn't respect hierarchy at all, you know. Very powerful, and that's present in every organization. So every organization has huge power games going on in informal structure, from solidarity to, you know, mobbing, as we call it, you know, backstabbing people at work.
Bullying.
All of them. Yeah. Water cooler. Kurzer Dienstweg, as we say in Germany. There's thousands of phenomena in informal structure. That's very powerful. So we have formal structure, very powerful, but only good for solving compliance problems. Informal structure, very powerful, and that's more, you know, beyond the coffee breaks and so on. And here's the thing. Those 2 structures are very well understood in most organizations. Sometimes people ignore informal structure, which is stupid to ignore it. But those structures are well understood. You know, formal structure, informal structure. We like or dislike each other. But here's the thing. The most important structure to do the work is a third structure. We call it value creation structure. And value creation structure, by nature, that's why we call it org physics, flows from the inside out, from center to periphery to market. There's no way around it, but most organizations have never thought about this, and they don't understand the dynamics or the physics of that. If markets are complex, the periphery must be in charge to steer the center and not the other way around. So this is the PG structure, what we call beta usually. And here's the thing. If you do not understand or respect this value creation structure, the third structure in which the real work and value creation is done and innovation is done, then the formal structure, the pyramid, and this value creation structure start to have an epic fight. Mm-hmm. And that's bad. Formal structure should do what it does best, which is to generate compliance, to fulfill, the law. And you should liberate value creation structure that people with mastery and teams can be in charge. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's very different. A boss and somebody with mastery, they may be the same people, but usually it's not. Mm-hmm. So these two structures are in this epic struggle in most organizations. You said that, no organization is pure alpha. Yes, because there is this epic fight going on between these three structures. For example, people with mastery want to do the work, but they can't because bosses are steering so hard and there's so much planning and allocations and budgeting and performance appraisal and all this bullshit. So there's a conflict, and through informal structure and politics, you try to smoothen it out. It happens all the time in organization. Extremely wasteful, leads to zip performance. Mm-hmm. So the only solution, the only salvation for organization is to put value creation structure first, to decentralize radically. That's what Toyota and Semco and Aldi and DM Drogeriemarkt and Handelsbanken have done. Decentralize and formal structure, at the CEO, a woman, Terry Kelly, she says, it's not my duty to know what's going on in the company, how people are doing their work. I'm just a CEO. My role is to attract people to the company and represent it well, and to sign the certain legal documents, because she has to do it, nobody else can do it. Yeah, that's it. That's the CEO. The CEO is not the most powerful person, the hero at the top. I'm just serving the company so that other people can run the business.
Exactly.
That's what Ricardo Semler would say about Semco 20 years ago as well.
Yeah.
And so this idea of understanding the three structures of organization, understanding org physics is key to seeing better organizations emerge. It's not. This is not about revolution. This is just about putting value creation structure first, understanding the vocabulary.
Would you put KPIs on this value proposition to measure it?
Yes, value creation structure. Within value creation structure, you have teams in the center, teams in the periphery, and you should measure all of their performances. Yes.
Perfect. Yeah. Then we are
not two people. Not 2 people. 5 to 7.
Yeah. Then we have the same understanding now, and exactly this is where our evolution from the initial crash through this change, where people left, and we just tested, right? I didn't read your white papers. Maybe I should have done that before. I had no change manager, whatever. I just decided how it works won't work for me anymore. And I want to have people that work self-motivated, self-determined, independent, etc. And now I am here, I want to be there. The way between that, no idea. So we just figure it out. And today, I never want to go back to the old system again. It's so much more efficient. And I have a team. We are, as we say in Germany, sitting in the same boat, right? We share common interests, and they are not my resources to earn money, how it was before. Yeah.
I think one big advantage we have at Bright Solutions and FlashUp is that, and that I can say without making commercials for ourselves, is we respect each other, right? In our teams, in our relations between the co-workers and colleagues, there's a huge amount of respect, which helps us through these times and helped us over the last 2-3 years to figure out all this stuff. And in a hierarchical company, this might never happen. As we come slowly to the end of our show today, could you help us to understand a little bit more about the topic respect, Niels? How important is it, and how we get out of this toxic environments that we found so often in different companies, as you mentioned, a lot of them right now in the show, because it seems to me as one of the key factors or key indicators how could things go better in the future, as we still don't see this vast majority changing to beta or something similar.
Not yet. Not yet. I think we will see more companies changing because now we know how to do it in very, very little time, in just a few months. One of the recent news from our network is that we figured finally, after for me almost 2 decades, we figured out how any organization can transform in 90 days, which is a huge step, because you wouldn't want to do it with consultants, right? So a good method must be consultant-free, fast, reliable, as self-organized as the organization we want to create. We call that open approach, open space beta. It is open source. Anybody can read about it, and anybody can do it without asking me, for example. So that's an interesting thing. But you asked about respect, right? Respect. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's a tough topic for me. Respect.
Why is that?
I think respect and trust and culture and that kind of stuff, they are results.
Uh-huh.
So you cannot, I cannot say to my wife, trust me more, respect me more, let's have a better family culture. I could do it, but it's nonsense. She would laugh at me, because ultimately these things, respect and trust and stuff, they are the result of the conditions and the things that we create and so on. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And of course, we want to have respectful environments. I want to have respect within my family, my organization, my life, and our societies. Everybody wants respect and trust. However, you cannot create it, you cannot force it, you cannot, wanting it is not enough. We have to create conditions. And I can only tell you, an alpha organization will always strive on fear and loathing and in a way on disrespect. It's a disrespect, because any command and control organization curates and creates learned helplessness. So that's the antidote of something like respect and dealing with each other on eye level and so on. Mm-hmm. So within command and control systems, we cannot expect things like trust or respect or social density or fulfillment of people's potential. We cannot really expect that, because mm-hmm. those organizations are built against it. It's like authoritarianism in Turkey currently, unfortunately. It's a sad thing. We cannot expect trust to grow, because people will, or as in fascism in Germany 70, 80 years ago, people were sniping, talking, bad-mouthing each other. So I would bad-mouth you so that you would be thrown to prison or a concentration camp. Authoritarianism, fascism, Stalinism always creates distrust and disrespect. It's a result of the system that we create. So what I can offer is only to say, okay, we know how beta organizations work. We know how organizations like Semco, Toyota, Aldi, Handelsbank, WL Gore, Southwest Airlines, how they work. We know the principles. We know that decentralization is key. We know that teams are key. We know that we should not make annual plans and set fixed targets and should not have bonus systems and all of that. We know all about it. How the boards of this world work. We know that. Our duty as entrepreneurs or people who aspire to improve the world should be to create such systems. And then I think we will see a lot more respect, a lot more trust, a lot more fulfillment of human potential, a lot more democracy.
I can 100% confirm that when I compare our culture before 2018 to the culture that we have right now. Exactly, we see these phenomenons.
Yeah, and the culture is like it. The things that you do to the system that work well, they ripple through into the culture in some way. Yes. But it takes time. So one thing that you mess up today, if today you shout at an employee, that may show up in your organization culture as something terrible 2 years later or 1 year later. Sure. So these things are not directly linked. Never forget, organizations are complex systems. The systems theory is very important for us. Yes. Very informative, has been very informative for improving the Beta Codex model as well. Mm-hmm. This distinction between center and periphery, and what it does to an organization to not steer internally, but to decentralize the steering to the market and have self-organization, a self-organized cell structure network to respond to market complexity. Mm-hmm.
Great.
I hope it was a decent answer to your question about respect.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much, Niels. I think we are way over time. We once spent our listeners too much. Thank you very much for participating and sharing these inputs. It was very, very interesting. I think for Manuel as well. I could see him on his chair whipping, and this is great. Niels, how could people get in contact with you or with the Beta Codex network, if they want to know more about it, if they want to get involved, if they want to learn about the system and the codex itself?
Yes, the network is on betacodex.org, Beta Codex, BETACODEX.org. My company, or our new company, is called Red42. That is Red 40 in letters, and then the 2 as a number, so Red42.com. And I have a personal website as well, nielspflaeging.com. So all of this is good. I also published 2 books that I have recommended a little bit during the session: Organized for Complexity and Open Space Beta. Most of our work is free, though, and I recommend you to make use of the fact that the Beta Codex is an open source social technology. Cell structure design and open space beta are also open source social technology. So you can use these words to Google it and to find out where you find the concept overview, the open source licenses and so on. So they are free to use, and I think we need those social technologies to make the world a better place. Starting point, betacodex.org.
Great. That's a good closing point. Thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Thank you as well. Thank you as well to our listeners for joining today. And we see each other in our next episode here at Virtual Frontier.
I'd like to thank our guest Niels Pflaeging for joining us today. You can find out more about Niels and the Beta Codex network using the links in the show notes. Remember that you can find the full transcript of this episode on our blog that is also linked in the show notes. You can subscribe to the Virtual Frontier on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, or anywhere else podcasts are found. And while you're there, please leave us a review. Reviews help people find our podcast, and don't forget, your review could be mentioned on a future episode. If you want to learn more about virtual teams as a service, visit flashhub.io. On behalf of the team here at FlashHub, I'd like to thank you for listening. So until next episode, keep exploring new frontiers.